episode of the This Is Metal Show. We'd like to welcome once again the Atomic Kings to our show. And guys, welcome back. You know, you're one of our, I believe this is your third appearance on the show. So we always love having you. So let's get right into it. We got Ryan and Greg. We got the whole band. So what's going on, guys? I know that you're getting ready to release a debut album on vinyl. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I'll do it. Yeah, we're big fans of vinyl. Part of our whole attitude towards music is to release entire albums. We're all big fans. We grew up, you know, with vinyl records. All of us did, and so
Ryan wears a lot of vinyl at work.
I can't. It's getting harder
He's a
and harder
big
to
fan.
find, you know, it's harder and harder to find pants that fit. But there's a certain Melrose district.
Hold on 1 second.
Sure.
Okay, now I can.
So yeah, we're just awaiting our test pressings for that vinyl, and once they meet our thumbs up, then it goes into production. So we're hopefully by the end of the month we should have a date released, and we can't wait for those vinyl collectors. It looks great. So we're very excited to get that out to all the vinyl collectors.
We're talking about the record, right?
Yeah, as soon as we get a date.
And we, of course, got the record company president with us, El Presidente Tom. So do you have any special details regarding the vinyl release? Is there going to be any kind of special packaging or special colored vinyl or anything like that, Tom?
Not that, but we do have a release date for you guys. It's the 8th of November. Geez, I got to think here. The 8th of November was the earliest we could get it out, and that's going to be a great time, right as the Christmas season comes on, right before Thanksgiving. That's as soon as we could get you guys on the SKU to go out, but we'll be all set with that. We're excited about this.
That's
In
perfect.
fact, we were working it up today for you guys. In fact, you just sent me the stuff I needed, so we'll get it up. It'll probably be up, and you'll see it up for pre-sale. I would think in the next 3 weeks you'll start seeing pre-sale links for it.
Well, breaking news.
Well, Ken says he's going to buy all. Ken says he's buying all of them, so I don't see the pre-sale being a problem.
Breaking news! Breaking news! I'm buying them all.
Yeah. Any plans to release a video or anything with this reissue or being released on vinyl finally?
We're going to do a video where we dress as aliens, and oh, never mind.
We don't have to dress up for that.
Well, here's something we'd like to tell you guys. We would probably get you guys like maybe a great lyric video. If you guys could get us the content for one of the songs that you guys picked, we'd get a great lyric video out for you guys if you guys are interested in
All
that.
right. Okay, we can make that happen. We got plenty of
Yeah.
content.
And let me ask you guys, how happy are you with FireRock? Because, you know, you were previously on another label, and the thing about it is the album was getting great reviews, and the only problem was nobody really could get their hands on it. So how happy are you that the people are able to finally get physical copies if they like?
Well, very obviously.
We don't know what to think because we're not used to it.
Yeah.
Uncharted waters here.
That was definitely one of the obstacles we were facing, is especially a lot of overseas people were wanting to get the album, but the shipping was just insane. So that's been a huge plus. And really FireRock has just been extremely supportive and great to work with. I mean, they've just been fantastic.
Thank you.
Oh, well. And so let me ask you guys, you know, this album's been out probably a little over a year now, as far as, you know, when it started getting reviewed and people could, you know, download it and stuff. And since FireRock has kind of put it out there physically, you're at a point, even though it's been out a year, I know you, on one hand, you want to start creating the next album, but you're still pushing this one. So talk a little bit about that.
Go ahead,
Jimmy, Ryan?
Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
Oh, what?
Hi, Jimmy.
Well, Jimmy, I guess what I'm asking is, you know, any band wants to always start thinking about their next album, but you're kind of really getting the album to push it really never really got to begin with now. And so where are you guys as far as, you know, the next album?
Well, you know, to Greg's point, some time ago, I believe it was actually when we were first talking to Tom, we think we've our initial release was the best record that no one had a chance to hear.
Exactly, yeah.
And we're pretty proud of it, obviously. The vinyl release is going to be great. Looking forward to getting that out. There's been a ton of requests for it on vinyl. But all of that being said, we are in fact back at it. We're writing, got a couple of rehearsals under our belt where there's some new offerings coming together. So pretty excited about it. Picked up right where we left off, and pretty excited about the new stuff. Can't wait for everybody to hear it.
I got to ask you, Tom, what's it been like working with these guys? I mean, you want to tell the story of how you first, got them to FireRock, or did you approach them, or what was that process?
Mike Wilkerson found them. Mike, I think Mike knew Greg, or he knew somebody in the band. He knew Greg, and he approached them about coming. And I'd have to tell you that this album's gonna carry a lot of lifetime on it. I think it really will. And my Great American Rock album, I released it 2 years ago. It's still selling every day. I mean, so this is something that this didn't get worked correctly, and now we're trying to work it for them. And people can, I mean, I can tell you probably tomorrow morning we'll get a purchase offer for vinyl. I would expect that tomorrow through Walmart and Amazon. Everybody be reaching out for it. I mean, they sold out their first pressing. I mean,
Pretty impressive, guys. I mean,
they had another purchase order come in for them. So,
Yes.
I mean, that definitely tells you the demand's there now. Tom, even though you work with these guys, I imagine, obviously they wouldn't be signed to a label if you didn't think the music was good. So you have a favorite song off the album? What are some songs that really stand out to you?
Every one of them are great songs. I have to say this. I'm not just saying this, these guys are on here. I would tell you this if we were alone. Sure. There's not a bad song on this album. It's like, I love it. It's like every song takes its own personality on it. Every song is a great song. And that's why this album, it's going to have some lifetime out there. People say, oh, they last 6 to 8 weeks. Mine's 2 years, and I think these guys will go past that with this album. I'm getting ready to release my next album.
We signed with you because clearly you're very intelligent.
Yeah.
Sure, don't ask my ex-wife, she'll tell you.
I only got back in the band for the bad jokes.
Well, I'm glad to see you back.
Right? That's news to everybody. but honestly, you guys, that's one thing I said last time you were on the show, that about your album, is I think the toughest thing for the band might be to pick which do you release as a first single, because all the, like Tom said, all the songs really kind of kick ass, and you can release any of them, I think, as singles.
Well, our original first single was All I Want, and it was successful. It was #1 for a couple weeks on some radio station. So that song was the obvious choice to us. But I think if you were to ask any of us, we would probably agree with Tom that we like all the material. I'm sure everyone has their own favorites. Sure. If we were going to do a lyric video today, I would tell you that we would probably want to do it with Take My Hand, which would have been a third single if we had went that far. So fortunately, we are at the enviable position of liking all the material that we write. So it's not like there's a dog on the record. Everything that we wrote for this record, we were really proud of it and thought that each track could stand on its own. Ryan's point that, we like making records, not just releasing singles. I know the thing is, these days people will write a song, release it, whatever. Our thing is to write a record, a whole record, put it together as a record, as a body of work, as opposed to just 8 or 9 random singles. So on that, debut record, that was what we were trying to do, and that what I feel that we achieved that. And on the next record that we have been writing, we've had a few rehearsals. Ryan and I have been doing a lot of writing in the interim of, my vacation to coming back. And so we have quite a catalog of material that we'll get to as we go. And probably the fact that this record isn't going to get a vinyl release until November probably works in our favor, because by November, we might finally be done writing. We've all discussed amongst the 4 of us that we'll write. Let's write 8 songs. That's not what our thing is. We write till we're convinced that we have what we want. If it's 10 songs, 12 songs, 15 songs, once, Ryan and I do the main bulk of the writing to bring it to the band, the original concept of what the song is. Once Ryan and I figure that we have said everything we want to say, and Jimmy said everything that he wants to say, and Ken said everything he wants to say, then we'll figure, okay, let's pick the 8 to 10 songs with some bonus tracks or whatever. So it's a good problem to have. And the other thing is, Ryan and I are in the enviable position that Jimmy and Ken like everything we write, which is really cool. So, I mean, we're just fooling around with the riff. Ken will come in and go, what is that? We need to make a song out of that. Or Jimmy will start coming up with the drum beat and he'll say, oh, this is really great. And so it's like Ryan could write a song, or I could write a song based on the tuning of the guitar and probably make a song out of it that Ken or Jimmy would like to work on. And you don't get that all the time. I mean, all of us have been in a number of bands, and there's plenty of times when you're writing where you can tell that someone may or may not be into what you're doing. And in this band, we all really like what we do. So it works good.
Yeah, one thing
a sound check one time. I was playing a riff, and Ken said, "Oh, that's a cool riff. What is that?" And I kind of looked at him quizzically, and I said, "It's part of track 3 on our record. It's the bridge."
And then Ken said, "We should make a song out of it."
Still make a song out of it.
We already did.
Remember?
Yeah, well, let me ask you, Ken, about that. Is that maybe because as a vocalist, like when you're listening to songs or you're creating, because you're a vocalist, you tend to pay more attention maybe to the lyrics as opposed to the music, or is that any truth to that?
I didn't even know.
I don't know that I would agree with that. I'm always paying attention to the music, really. And to me, especially when Greg or Ryan come up with a riff or something, when we all get together, most times the very first thing that I think of, the very first feeling that it invokes is a lot of times what starts developing the lyric. So I'm a firm believer that lyrics should always make sense with the music, and what the music makes you feel is what the song should be about. So I'm always paying attention, really, not just to the guitar, but there's a lot of when I listen back, I realize I do a lot of listening to the bass line as well. So I think that's what makes it all come together.
Don't blame me.
It's all Greg's fault.
I've heard this all before.
And there's a lot of things, and there's so much that goes on in rehearsal that nobody else gets to hear. You know what? Outside of the 4 of us, we're the only ones that have heard so much of the stuff that's going on in rehearsals, and there's so much there, and there's so many cool ideas, and you just gotta feel your way through those and somehow come up with 9, 10, or however many you're going to put on the record. So our biggest problem is not knowing what to come up with or what to get rid of.
Yeah, narrowing it down and decide what ends up on the album. And then, like you were saying, it's always cool, I think, to have an abundance of material, because what doesn't make the first album, maybe you'll make it onto the next album.
Yeah, and that's one of the songs we're working on currently is a song that goes way back, about 3 years, if not longer than 3 years. But it was one that has got some great parts in it. So we kind of went in there and surgically removed those parts and are putting it with some new fresh ideas, because whatever it was about that initial incarnation of that piece of music was it just wasn't jiving with us, and it kind of fell by the wayside. But we're pretty good about going back and checking out stuff that we've old rehearsal tapes and stuff like that. Is like, I remember this one. This riff is great, and this riff is great, but these two suck. So you got to go in and take those two and be bold enough to recognize when something sucks, and being able to just cast it away and not lose any sleep over it. Go, hey, it just didn't work. Too bad. So let's take these little nuggets right here and build a new house on top of that.
Have any of you guys, when you go in the studio and you record, you ever had the issue of like, maybe because you were like the chief writer on a song, but the rest of the band didn't really dig it? Like you said, be able to take that criticism, or like, hey, that's
Sure.
my song.
I mean,
Sure, yeah.
that happens all the time. I mean, it's not about the individual parts or who
Yeah,
wrote what. It's about what it ends up being once it all comes together. And sometimes the most insignificant part of a song ends up becoming the most important part of the song when you're putting it together. A lot of times it's not what you put in a song, it's about what you don't put in.
Yeah, it's true. And you guys are making a great point of the fact that the way the business is nowadays, a lot of bands, they don't even put out full-length albums. You either get like a 3-song EP or a single maybe every 6 months or something. I dig the fact that you guys are doing the old school way, that you're giving the fans a full-length album, and there's like every album, like Tom said, is a great. You're giving them the whole package, if you will.
Yeah, that's how I consume music is vinyl records at home.
Yeah.
I have Spotify and stuff, but I still listen to entire records. I just listened to this morning at the gym. Instead of me putting a shuffle on, I listened to a whole Humble Pie album
Yeah.
from start to finish on the treadmill, running. So that's how I do it. I don't shuffles are fun when you're on a road trip or something, but like for me, when I'm wanting to listen to something, I pull out a whole record. I've always been that way.
And how about you, Jimmy? Like to have like a physical vinyl or something to hold in your hand or a CD and say, yeah, this is our baby we created.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? We all come from the same school here as it relates to, when we were coming up, it was always super exciting to, make your way to the record store and find the record that you want. You get it home, you get to unpack it, you're reading the liner notes, you get to, it's a whole experience. So for me, to be able to give somebody that same feeling,
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I couldn't hope for more.
I mean, Jimmy, you just put it there. But I mean, that's something I'm always talking about. I mean, I remember days of going to Tower Records, spending all day in there looking. And I mean, I remember just a huge selection. You could spend hours and hours in there. And these kids today, like a record store, what's that?
Yeah, I know.
And then
It seems like they're trying to make a comeback with
Yeah, I think so.
vinyl. I think that there's an opportunity for record stores. There's a store back in Virginia where I grew up that is still there. They've never gone out of business. He's in business now probably 40 plus years. And it's just a single guy who owns it. And it was where I used to spend so much time.
Yeah.
Just thumbing through and trying to find records and talking with him. This guy was, oh my gosh, he was a walking encyclopedia of just different genres and records and musicians and things like that. It was always great to have him as a sounding board. Hey man, what's new? What is something that is gonna move me, and he would point me in these directions. I would love to see more of that come back into play.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
The thing with Spotify or any of that stuff is you download the song, but you don't get to really look at anything as far as, what does the band look like? What is their, what's in their special thanks? What kind of gear did they use? I mean, I bought many a record in my time by looking at something going, man, I've never heard this band before, but these guys look pretty cool on this album cover, and they're produced by someone that I was familiar with, or the guy's playing a Firebird, or they look like a band that comes to mind is an obscure band that we're all kind of familiar with, especially Ken, called 3-Man Army. And I bought their first 3 records, never having heard any of their stuff, but seeing it in the record store and thinking, man, this has to rock. And of course I took it home and it did. And I think I think that people today, kids today, don't get to have that experience. I know it was very important for us when we made the record and everything that we have done to make sure that, it had liner notes, it had special thanks, it had cool photos, it had all the stuff that we liked looking at when we were,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
In our record buying youth, so to speak. And to Jimmy's point, there's a guy here in town named Butch Poff, and he owned a place called Bullfrog Records, and it was a little small store, and I would go in there. He had a lot of imports, and he knew what my tastes were. He was also a bass player, and he would point me, again, to what Jimmy was talking about, in the direction of what he knew I liked. And he turned me on to a lot of bands that I probably would have never heard of, whether it's Atomic Rooster or
Yeah.
early UFO or Scorpions, back before they turned into the commercial version that they are now. And so I'd go in there and he'd say, "Hey, I just got this in. You'll really like this. You need to check this out." And he'd be right every time. So I hope that, what Jimmy says is right, that it does come back, because I think all of us, including the 6 of us here, probably spent a lot of time doing that.
Oh yeah, great. You're taking it back there. Like very first time I'd seen Iron Maiden's Number of a Beast, and I wasn't even a teenager yet. I just thinking in the store, I don't know what the heck that is, but man, it sure does look cool. Just had to get it. Yeah.
That's a cool album cover.
They had great album covers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another band, Iron Maiden, great metal band, but look at all the album covers, just super cool looking. I mean, the band was never, they weren't a bunch of pretty boys either, so it makes sense. The band never put themselves on the front cover in a single album cover. And it just was a unique way to market their stuff,
Yeah, for sure. Going back to what Greg was talking about and what you're talking about as far as album covers, I know album covers have changed a lot over the years. And when you go back to Gun and Three Man Army that Greg was mentioning, you look at some of those album covers, and they really put a lot of effort into the album covers. And I know that all 4 of us are absolutely on the same page for albums. And for me, I think it's some bands it's probably more important to do a full album as opposed to a single. If you write singles and a lot of your music is very familiar and you don't really stray one way or another, I guess singles would be okay. But a band like Atomic Kings, we kind of have to, we kind of need to give them the entire thing, because it's so diverse that, if you just give them one piece, you alienate what so many other styles and things that we delve into is. It'd be like eating a sandwich, one ingredient at a time, instead of putting it all together and take a bite.
I mean, in fairness, I would say you guys, to me, I like to describe the music as maybe a hard rock Beatles, meaning kind of like you're saying, Ken, it's hard to pigeonhole what this band is. And what I mean is a great example of that is you look at a band like the Beatles, great for songwriting, and who wasn't influenced by the Beatles, but probably you look at it as something like Helter Skelter. People listening to this might think that's a Motley Crue song, but that's as metal as the Beatles ever got, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They had a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Beatles? Who?
They had a few hits in the 60s.
From Liverwurst? Oh.
Liverwurst.
Is that an American band?
Hey, from Texas?
Way before your guys' time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know we all absolutely love the Beatles for sure. So
I mean, I just bring that up because you guys, I mean, like you're saying, Ken, it seems like one thing I can say, the band is full of great songwriters. And when you got that kind of talent in a band, I think that's why you get the kind of response you did from this killer debut album that people are still just kind of finding out about.
well, and you know what? For us, I know that the 4 of us know that we are just at the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's so much going on behind the scenes, and behind the scenes that I know that we are just scratching the surface here. So we look forward to getting into a lot of that, and so we can't wait for 2, 3, however many it ends up, because as diverse as the songs on our debut is, I would imagine our albums will be as well. So
Sure.
we're looking forward to it, and
We believe in what we
Go ahead,
believe
Ray.
in what we do. We
Yeah.
believe in what we do, and it's as important to us for what Ken's talking about, the diversity of it, and hearing the band for what it is we write and the musicianship that we bring to our band. And so it's a very serious part of what we do, and for all the goofing around that we seem to do, it doesn't really change the fact that we're serious about what we're writing, and when this next record is eventually done, it'll stand on its own. It'll have to compete with the first one. We understand that. So we're going to make the next record every bit as good, if not better than the second one. We have to.
Well,
It's
well, guys, it was great
it's
having
who
you
we are.
back. We're gonna have to wrap it up because otherwise we're gonna get cut off. But we'll definitely have you back on the show sometime in November when the vinyl is officially released,
Yeah.
so we can further promote that. Thanks for coming on, guys. Have a great day. Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
man. Good talking to you guys again.
Take care,
All
man.
right,
care.
sounds good. Great to see you guys. Thanks, Tom.